All right, we're going to get started. I'm so excited that we have some participants. It's always easier to chat and learn together. So I don't know all of you, but my name is Becky Farley, and I'm the founder for Parkinson Wellness Recovery. And I'm the scientific officer now, and I love this topic. So I will be introducing our speaker and maybe mentioning a little bit about why I feel it's so important for you and happy that you're here. So an announcement before we start is, if you'll please, this is pre-recorded. So if you don't want your image to show up, if you'll just go on and stop the video and you'll still hear. This is an interactive session. So I know that Dr. Baldwin's going to want to, have you do some things and might ask some questions. So please participate. If you have questions, she doesn't mind. You can ask your questions anytime. You'll just have to unmute yourself and then turn it back on after you get your answer. Okay, that way it won't interfere with everybody. All right, so I will give a little introduction and we'll get started. On our website, we have an introduction for Dr. Baldwin. I'm going to try to personalize it a little bit and talk a little bit about when I met her. But she is a Reiki Master. But even that, what I was so impressed by her is that she is a professor in physiology at the University of Arizona and director of Mind Body Science, which is a private, now her own practice. And she's very involved in the community and helping people and animals with really connecting and stress reduction and other things I'm sure she's going to tell us about. So she comes from UK, which you will know right away, with a bachelor's in physics, and she has a master's in radiation physics and a PhD in physiology. And in her career, and when I met her, she was studying the effects of stress in animals and maybe some human too. But it's really fascinating. She's been doing very vigorous research, quantitative research in animals, trying to understand the role of stress on things like gut permeability, right? On structural changes and physiological changes in the body, even on genetics. So she was able to show that stress can modify genetics in animals that have mutations or deficiencies. And she showed that stress can affect the permeability of our guts, which has some things in common with Parkinson disease and the cause of Parkinson disease. And it can affect the cardiovascular system, which we know also in Parkinson's is affected. So things like heart rate variability, maybe other things like heart rate or blood pressure. So you're going to hear a lot about some of those changes, I'm sure. So what's interesting about Dr. Baldwin is she's really practical. She's looking at how do we translate this to humans and animals in the real world? Can we improve health and lifestyle and reduce stress and improve all those kinds of factors in the real world? So things like enriched environments she's looked at, like reducing noise levels, diet supplements, Reiki and other energy healing techniques, laughter yoga. So all those things are so maybe magical in some ways, but she's looking for the real quantitative evidence to support them, because they do help people feel better and help animals as well. So there's a lot of clinical applications. I saw some studies you've done, Ann, that were on people with for total knees and shoulder impingement, which I'm right there. I would sign up for those studies. And she's also looked at people waiting to be their organ transplant patients, trying to look at the role of stress and helping them survive longer even maybe and get better through the surgeries. So, all right, I think that's good. I know we're going to hear from And I'll just mention I met her. I feel like I was doing a postdoc in physiology. It was I was changing careers and I had just started research on exercise and Parkinson's. I remember meeting you several times at the copier. Our offices were nearby. And we, just had a lot of things in common. I was fascinated by the stress component of Parkinson's. And, stress is something that affects the autonomic system. You're going to hear about, like your organs, the things that you don't think about ever, from your heart rate, respiration, liver and your kidneys. And those are really, they are impaired in Parkinson's disease. In fact, they are some of the earliest symptoms of Parkinson's disease in that early phase when you don't even know you have Parkinson's. So if there's something we could do to help the autonomic system early, that might even put off the disease. So I will stop talking. Ann, I think if you have questions for Ann, again, you can ask them anytime. I will let you know she's real into horses, and I hope we get to hear some of that, of what you're doing. So,
oh, yeah.
Go on, Ann. It's all yours. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming this evening. So I'm going to be talking about Reiki. So how many of you just raise your hands physically? How many of you have heard of Reiki? A few of you. So I'll be talking about Reiki, what it is and how it can help not just people with Parkinson's, but actually it helps everybody, but particularly people with Parkinson's for reasons that I'll be talking about. And then I'm also going to talk about breathing. Breathing's something we all do, but most of us actually, by the time we're adults, don't breathe correctly. And you can change the way you breathe, and that completely changes your physiology and your stress levels. And breathing correctly is part of Reiki. So we will be doing some breathing as well as learning about Reiki. So I'm going to start. Actually, I need to share my screen. So I have some slides to show. Looks like it's going to happen. Yes. Okay, so you should be able to see a slide that says Reiki breath and health. Can you all see that?
No.
No, okay.
And did you hit the green share screen button at the bottom?
I did, yes.
Okay. And then the power team probably has to make sure that they approve that request.
Oh.
Got it?
Okay.
And then now you should probably be able to choose what screen you want to show. Maybe.
Okay, share screen.
When you share screen, Ann, is it showing you the different things on your computer?
It's just got my desktop. Hang on a minute.
Do you have your PowerPoint open?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I'll put desktop then.
Oh.
Now you can see it?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, good. All right, perfect. Oh, good. All right. So that's what I was wanting you to see, Reiki breath and health. And so an outline, so I'm going to talk about what is Reiki, and then I'm going to see how you are breathing. And by that, I mean, I want to know how many breaths that you take in a minute. So I will be telling you when to start counting and when to stop counting, and then we'll see how fast or slowly you're breathing. I'll introduce a new way to breathe, and then I'll tell you how it affects your heart and your mind, and how it affects basically everything you do. It's amazing. A simple thing like breathing affects everything you do. And then I'll end with a quote from the Dalai Lama. So I think it was 2005. He was in Tucson, and I went to see him speak. And he says that there are two personal qualities that are the most important. And I was really happy to find that both of those personal qualities are enhanced by Reiki. So we'll get to those. So what is Reiki? So Reiki, as I said, pronounced Reiki. It's originally from Tibet, but it was rediscovered by someone called Mikao Usui in Japan, in Tokyo, at the end of the 1800s. And Rei means spiritual wisdom, and Ki, sometimes known as Chi, means energy. And this is a kind of what's called a subtle energy. So it's an energy that flows through every living being. And when you learn Reiki and when you learn other forms of energy healing, you actually begin to feel this energy flowing through you. It's like almost like a tingling sensation. You can feel the energy flow. And when that energy stops flowing, that means that there's some kind of blockage or some dysfunction. And when you receive Reiki, the Reiki will remove those blockages so the energy flows again, so everything's moving. And intention is very important for Reiki. So when somebody gives Reiki to somebody else, they always have to state their intention. And their intention goes like this: I ask that the Reiki go to the highest good of whoever it is. So it's always to the highest good. And it's good if you can be more specific. So you might say, to the highest good of Pamela or something, in particular to help her with her headache, or to help her with her Parkinson's disease, or to remove the pain from her arm, or something like that. So intention is important. And I'm a Reiki Master. That means that I have done level 1 of Reiki, level 2, and then I've been trained to teach Reiki. So I'm a Reiki Master. And so I can not only give Reiki sessions, but I can also teach Reiki to other people. So I do Reiki classes. Right now, because of COVID, I haven't been doing classes. I've been doing teaching people individually, and not just in one day. I've been kind of asking them to come once a week for several weeks so that they can learn slowly. And I found that's a better way to learn. They can digest all the details in between and start practicing. So this is just a picture of Mikao Usui, who rediscovered Reiki. He was basically a Japanese businessman who was interested in philosophy and philanthropy. He wanted to do good. And he was the one who did masses of reading and meditation, found out about Reiki, brought it all together, and developed a Reiki system that he used in Japan to heal people. And then he trained other Reiki masters to carry on the Reiki and to bring it worldwide. So Reiki isn't just a technique, it's actually a way of life. And it starts off with Reiki principles. So these are the principles that all Reiki practitioners live by. And you can see that they start just for today. So it's much easier to live by a principle if you're just doing it day by day, instead of saying, for the rest of my life, I will do such and such. So just for today, I give thanks for my many blessings. And that is my favorite one, because so often we just focus on the things that are not working for us, and we forget the things that we are really grateful for. So just for today, I give thanks for my many blessings. Just for today, I will not worry. And that doesn't mean, okay, I'm just going to leave my car unlocked and my house unlocked and just hope nobody comes by who I don't know. No, it means that once you've done everything, all of those things to stop anything untoward happening, you don't continue to worry about it. It's no good worrying someone's going to burglarize your house if you've done everything you can. So that's what it means. I will not worry needlessly, really. Just for today, I will not anger. And once again, everybody gets angry. But the thing is, you get angry, but then the trick is to not allow it to go on and on. Just get angry and then quickly come back to normal and drop the anger. So I will not anger doesn't mean I'll never get angry. It means I won't hold on to the anger. Because so often someone says something that upsets us and we spend like the whole week going over and over it in our minds, and that really doesn't help. And then just for today, I will do my work honestly. And that seems to be pretty obvious, but I was a bit puzzled by that one at first, because I thought, well, most people do their work honestly. No one, I mean, people do try and cheat others, but on the whole, most people do their work honestly. But I think it means more than just not stealing. I think it means doing work that you feel is worthy of you, basically. Doing the best work that you can, instead of doing something half-hearted. You do the best job you can with it, whatever the job is. You know, the job, you may think the job is insignificant, but if you put your whole heart and soul into it, that's what it means by doing your work honestly. And nothing is really insignificant. Everything you do has significance. And then just for today, I will be kind to myself and every other living thing. And often people forget to be kind to themselves. So how many of you, I'm sure many of you have kind of chastised yourself in such a way that you would never say those things to a friend, and called yourselves, you know, horrible names that you would never call a friend. So it is important that you're kind to yourself as well as every other living thing. So this is what Reiki looks like. So usually you're lying on, it looks like a massage table, but you can do Reiki anywhere. You don't have to have a massage table. You can be seated, you can lie on your bed. So you don't need a massage table, but that's usually how it's done, and it's the most comfortable. And then the Reiki practitioner will place their hands on various parts of the body. And I always ask the person beforehand if they mind being touched, because if they don't want to be touched, you can hold your hands slightly away from them. So it works just as well either way. And I also tell the people that know what we call in England naughty parts. No naughty parts will be touched. So we're very ethical about where we place our hands. And it's gentle contact or no contact. And you usually start with the head area and end with the soles of the feet. And the clients remain fully clothed. And typically the sessions last usually maybe half an hour or an hour, but if you haven't got much time, or the person hasn't much time, you can do Reiki in a few minutes, whatever is needed. So there's no set time that you need to do Reiki for it to be effective. And at this point, I'm just going to say that we don't know exactly how Reiki works, but what we do know is that, and this is from experiments I've been involved with, and also experiments that other investigators have done, Reiki appears to work on what's called the autonomic nervous system, which is the part of the nervous system that helps with all the operation of the different organs. So it helps with the heart. Well, basically it's in charge of making your heart beat and increase its beat when you increase heart rate when you're exercising, decrease heart rate when you're sleeping, etc. So it affects the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, everything, even the skin. So the autonomic nervous system regulates all parts of the body, particularly the organs. And there are two main parts to this autonomic nervous system. What's called the sympathetic nerves that speed things up, like speed up your heart, make your heart contract more forcefully, usually speed up your breathing rate. And then there's the parasympathetic that is the opposite and slows things down. So it's like having an accelerator and a brake. It's like driving a car. So if you're in traffic, you have to sometimes use the accelerator and sometimes use the brake. If your foot's on the accelerator all the time, you're going to crash into somebody and waste gas. And if your foot's on the brake all the time, you're not going to go anywhere. So you have to make sure that both sets of nerves are working together when needed. So it's like driving a car in traffic. And the sympathetic nerves, or the accelerator, that is what is in charge of the fight or flight response. So that is what gives you energy when you need to get out of trouble. And then the parasympathetic is called the rest and digest, which is very important because it helps with digestion and it helps the body repair itself. So if you're always stressed out and your accelerator is always on and the brake never has a chance to come in, then you'll be kind of going on and on without any chance to have the body repair itself. And that's why stress can be very harmful, both physically and mentally, because you're not giving the body any chance to repair itself. Another way that the Reiki works on the body, so the Reiki balances the sympathetic and parasympathetic, keeps them in balance. The other thing that it does is that it regulates the endocrine system, the hormonal system. So it's been shown that it will reduce the stress hormone, cortisol, because when we're stressed, we have too much of the stress hormone. We need the stress hormone because it helps us break down carbohydrates to give us energy. But if we have too much of the stress hormone too much of the time, it can make the immune system not function properly. It can cause a lot of other ill effects, tissue damage, all kinds of things. So we need the cortisol, but not too much of it. And then the other hormone that Reiki affects is serotonin, which I'm sure you all know, serotonin and dopamine, and something called DHEA, dihydroepialdosterone, which is important for cell repair and cell maintenance. So those are the two ways that Reiki works. The thing we don't know exactly is where exactly is the Reiki coming from and what is this energy? So we haven't yet found out the answers to those questions, but we do know how it works and how it affects the body and how it benefits the body. So as I said before, if you have any questions, just you can unmute yourself and ask me, especially if you don't understand something I'm saying. So benefits of Reiki. So these have been shown both with observation and with scientific data. Balances the body's energies, so balances the sympathetic and parasympathetic, and helps the body heal itself. So it's not some magic pill that helps, that makes the body work better. It actually helps the body to heal itself, working on both the autonomic nervous system and the endocrine system. It helps cleanse the body of harmful toxins, and that's really important. You know, I read more and more about pollution of the air, pollution of the food, and how that is causing real problems now. It even is a risk factor for cancer, some of these pollutants. And then Reiki helps with relaxation. That's the main thing. If you give someone a Reiki session and afterwards you say, how do you feel? They'll almost invariably say, I feel really relaxed. So helps with relaxation, reduces stress, it's good for reducing anxiety and pain and burnout. Some studies have been done on nurses. Nurses get really stressed, especially now, and Reiki has been shown to help them. And it does improve the circulation, especially to the peripheral circulation, like the hands and the feet. And it helps with immune function too. And that's probably because stress impedes the immune system or impairs it, and Reiki reduces the stress. It also helps on not just a physical scale, but on emotional and mental scale as well. It helps you change unwanted habits. So for example, if you're smoking or you're drinking too much, doing Reiki on yourself or having Reiki sessions, if you state your intention is to change those habits, it usually helps with that. And enables success in all aspects of life. That might sound kind of pretty presumptuous, but in my case, I really think it's true. If you learn Reiki and you do Reiki, somehow or other you find that you have your goals, your life's goals seem to crystallize, so you become more aware of why you're here, what you want to do, and things just seem to fall into place, like you meet the right people, or you read the right book, or you see the right video to help you with your goals. So that's what it really means by enable success in all aspects of life. And it increases energy, intuition, creativity, and ability to solve problems. And part of that is because it helps balance the sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. I'm sure you know that when you're stressed, say you're just you're stressed out, you've got maybe too much sympathetic nerves going on, too much accelerator, it's difficult to solve problems. It's difficult to think clearly. And that's because of stress, and the Reiki will reduce the stress, and that's how it helps with problem solving. Other characteristics of Reiki. So Reiki is gentle. So when you have a Reiki session, you're not going to feel like a jolt of electricity or anything like that, or pain. The Reiki is very gentle, and you may feel some tingling sensations. You may feel like a pulsation. You may feel some heat. People often feel heat, but you won't feel any discomfort. And Reiki goes to where it's needed. It's said to have its own intelligence. So if your blood pressure is too high, it will bring it down. If your blood pressure is too low, it will bring it up. So it goes where it's needed, and it works to the highest good. And it means to the highest good of all concerned, not necessarily just your highest good. It could be to the highest good of your family as well. Another thing is that if you have like a half-hour Reiki session because you've got a headache, it could be that you might not see an immediate effect. And it could be that the Reiki may take a few hours before you notice a difference. It could even mean that you have to go for a few sessions before you notice a difference, because often the imbalances or the issues that we're going in with to a Reiki session have been building up for months or even years. And so it takes a while to break them all down and to get back to balance. There are studies that show it speeds up recovery time. There have been several studies on patients in hospital who've had surgery, and they've had Reiki before and after the surgery, and they have shown significant increase in recovery time. So a decrease in recovery time. It's faster. So how do we know Reiki works? Well, lots of observations, and if you go on Google, I'm sure you'll find all kinds of comments that people say that and things they've experienced, and anecdotes, stories. But for me, the main thing is peer-reviewed, published scientific studies. And I'm on this board called the Center for Reiki Research. I'm the research coordinator, and one of our functions is to read up on all the peer-reviewed, published scientific research on Reiki. And we evaluate those studies. We have special forms we developed so we can evaluate the studies and score them and then summarize them, and in terms that lay people can understand. And so these summaries are available on the Center for Reiki Research website, which is centerforreikiresearch.org. Center for Reiki Research, all one word, .org. And you'll be able to access those for free on the website. And these studies indicate, and there are right now close to 100 peer-reviewed published scientific studies. They indicate that Reiki shows promise as a healing modality, especially reducing stress, reducing anxiety, reducing chronic pain, and improving well-being or self-care. So those are the areas where there's most data. And this is just to show you, this is the diagram showing some of the articles and the year they came out. So each little segment there, each colored segment represents one article. And you can see on the y-axis the number of articles. So one segment is one article, and then you can see some of them have 4 segments, that's 4 articles. And then the year of publication at the bottom. So you can see we started off in 1996, and this is going up to 2021. And the colours represent the quality or the score of the studies. And the more blue and green they are, the better they are. The more brown and orange they are, the less rigorous they are. So you can see that the number of studies is basically going up as we progress, and the quality of the studies on the whole is also going up too. And just to give a plug for my book. So I've written a book called Reiki in Clinical Practice, a science-based guide. And this basically goes through all the research that has been done with Reiki. It goes through, there's sections on what Reiki is, how it works or how we think it works, and all the different issues that people have found Reiki is effective in healing. So this is like a textbook for Reiki. I think it's really pretty much the only science-based textbook there is on Reiki. And you can get it from the publishing website, which is written down at the bottom, handspringpublishing.com. And in addition, if you're up to it, March the 12th, I will be at Tucson Festival of Books on the campus. I'm put in as an indie author, and I will be on a pavilion on the grass on the main campus on the lawn on Saturday afternoon between 2:30 and 4:30. And if you want, you can come by and find me, and I'll be selling the books there at a big discount. So let's get back to breathing, because breathing is highly important. And here is where I would like you to count your breaths. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute so I can see everybody. That's good. And what I want you to do is count how many breaths you take in 1 minute. And 1 breath is in and out. You just count that as 1. So I'm going to tell you when to start counting and when to stop counting. And then at the end, I will ask, like, how many of you took 20 breaths or more, and raise your hands, physically raise your hands, just so I can see. So I will tell you when to start. Okay, start counting. Stop counting. So how many of you took 20 or more? Okay, a couple of you. How many of you took between 15 and 20? About 3 of you. How many of you took between 10 and 15? Okay, I think 1 I see. How many of you took between 5 and 10? Okay, so we're all over the map here, which is good because it means everyone's kind of normal. This is what we usually find. And the average breathing rate is actually between 12 and 15 breaths per minute. So you're pretty much spot on. But in later on, quite soon, I will tell you what the optimum breathing rate is. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so slow or fast? And right now, I'll tell you actually, the optimum breathing rate is 6 breaths per minute. So most of you were breathing too quickly, which is absolutely normal. Most people breathe too quickly. So slow breathing is 6 or less, and fast breathing, I would say fast breathing is, I count fast like 20 or more, and then the usual breathing is between about like 10 and 15. Shallow or deep? So most people, when they're not thinking about it, breathe pretty shallow, especially when you're stressed. When you're stressed, you breathe fast and shallow. When you're more rested or sleeping, you tend to breathe more deeply, unless you're having some wild nightmare. But yeah, you tend to breathe more deeply at night. And breathing slower and deeper is actually more beneficial to the body, because one reason is you get it, it increases the amount of oxygen that your blood takes up. And oxygen is needed to provide energy. Oxygen in the blood is needed to provide you with energy. A mouth or nose? Some people breathe through their mouth and some people breathe through their nose, and most people do one or the other some of the time. So obviously when you're clogged up, when you've got a sinus congestion, you're breathing through your mouth. Or when you're doing very rigorous exercise, you tend to breathe through your mouth as well. But it is best to breathe through the nose. One reason is that if you breathe through the nose, the air that you breathe will be, it will enter the lungs more slowly, so it will have time to get to the temperature, the body temperature, instead of what the temperature is outside. It will get closer to the body temperature. It will get closer to the humidity inside the lungs as well. Especially here, it's very dry, so it's best if we can slow down the breath going into the lungs. And also the mucus and mainly the mucus in the nose, is in the nasal passages, is going to maybe trap some of the particles that come in, so they don't enter the lungs. So nose is preferable to mouth. And then chest or stomach. So right now, if you can just all put one hand on your chest, one hand on your stomach, and just breathe. And as you breathe, notice which moves the most. Is it the hand on your chest or the hand on your stomach? Well, if you're doing stomach breathing, it will be the hand on the stomach that is moving more. If you're doing chest breathing, it will be the hand on the chest that is moving more. And the stomach breathing is actually preferable, and I'll show you why. So if you're doing the stomach breathing, you're using your abdominal muscles, and as you breathe in, the abdominal muscles are connected to a big muscle called the diaphragm that separates the thorax from the abdomen, and your lungs are in the thorax, in the chest area. So when you're doing the belly breathing, using your abdominal muscles, breathing right into the belly, so taking a long deep breath, not just to the upper parts of the lungs, but all the way down to the belly, your belly will expand, and that will pull down that diaphragm, and it will give more space in the thorax so the lungs can fill up better. So that way you're not just using the top part of the lungs, you're using the whole of the lungs. And then as you breathe out, as you breathe in, the belly will expand. As you breathe out, you tighten the abdominal muscles and the belly goes in, the diaphragm goes up. So that's this pulling down and up of the diaphragm to increase the space in the lungs, increase the amount of the lung tissue that is being used. So you're increasing the amount of oxygen that gets into the blood. So that's why it's healthier to do the the stomach breathing, you're using more of the lung capacity, so you get more oxygen into the lungs, and that will give you more energy, and you can do more. So now I'm going to move more onto the breathing and how it pertains to Reiki. So Dr. Usui, all those years ago, like in the early 1900s, he knew exactly how breathing affected not just the body, but the mind as well. He didn't have any of these devices that we have to measure heart rate and breathing and things like that. He just knew from observation and from his reading that breathing was very important for physical, mental, and emotional health. And he knew all about the nose breathing and the stomach breathing and breathing slower and deeper. So Gassho breathing, the word Gassho, basically it just means hands in prayer position, like that. So when you're doing Reiki, one of the things you can do is start off with this meditative practice, Gassho breathing. So you put your hands in prayer position, and as you breathe in, you imagine the Reiki is coming down through your crown and filling your entire body. So that's the breath going, filling all your lungs right into the belly. So you imagine the Reiki is coming in here and filling your entire body. So the Reiki and the breath are both coming in. And as you breathe out, you imagine the Reiki is radiating out from every pore of your body. So this Reiki is like a light beam. If you don't know Reiki, then you can imagine a light beam coming in through the crown of the head, light beam all the way, filling the whole body. And as you breathe out, imagine the light is radiating out of the body in all directions. So that is the Gassho breathing. And he asked them to breathe slower and deeper than usual. He asked them to breathe 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out, which is the magical 6 breaths per minute. So if you're breathing at 6 breaths per minute, what it does is it synchronizes the heart rhythm and the breathing, so that as you breathe in, the heart rate goes up, more blood is pumped from the heart to the lungs. And that's good because you just made this big in-breath. There's more oxygen in the lungs. At the same time, there's more blood going to the lungs, into the blood vessels. So that way, there's blood there to suck up all that oxygen that you've just breathed in. So that's why it's very effective to do this Gassho breathing, because you get the extra blood going to the lungs to pick up that extra oxygen that's there. All the timing is correct. And that happens round about this 6 breaths per minute. If you're breathing too fast, you don't get that synchronization of the heart rate going up and down and the breathing in and out. So 6 breaths per minute is approximately 6 breaths per minute is going to give you more oxygen, more energy. 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. So at this point, let's just do it together. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And you don't have to put your hands in prayer position if you don't want to. That's just what the Reiki practitioners do. It works just as well if you relax your hands on your lap. The important thing is, as you breathe in, imagine a beam of light coming in through your crown, filling up your entire body. And as you breathe out, that light is filtering out, radiating out to the world from all directions. So I'll give you an idea of the breathing rate as well. If it's too slow for you, just do your normal breathing rate, because I don't want you all to faint. So, and if you can manage it, that's good. So I'm going to give you some timing. So, okay, so breathe in and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and out and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and in and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and out and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and continue at that approximate pace just for a while. Breathing the light in and breathing the light out. So at this point, I'd like to give everyone or whoever wants to a chance to unmute and just let me know how that felt. You don't have to, but here's your chance if you want to.
My husband, who has Parkinson's, he's sitting behind me. He said he feels very relaxed.
Good.
And he was breathing over 20 breaths in that minute.
Fabulous.
I think it's a good way to go to sleep at night.
That's what I do if I can't sleep. Yeah, absolutely.
Good idea.
And as I said before, one problem with Parkinson's is that it disrupts the balance of the autonomic nervous system. And this simple exercise puts you back into balance. So it's really a valuable tool, and it's so easy. And it works with just imagining the light. It works better with the Reiki, but it works pretty well just imagining the light as well.
I found it very difficult.
Difficult? In what way? Was it too slow?
Oh, no, I was way too fast.
Well, you can just do it gradually. You can just breathe a little bit slower than normal, and just do it bit by bit. Like, just breathe a little slower, and then the next week a little slower than that, and just build it up gradually. And then it won't be such a chore. It's important that it's not a chore, because it's meant to be relaxing. Yeah.
Difficulty imagining or visualizing the light. I mean, maybe I needed a picture to see. I'm probably not the best at that part, but yeah, I was struggling with thinking of the same image over and over again.
Okay, well, that's useful, because I haven't got a picture of that, so it would be useful to have some kind of diagram, yeah, or an image of it. Thanks.
Have you heard of the 4-7-8 breathing pattern, and how does that relate to what you're talking about?
That's a really good question. Yes, I think that was Dr. Andrew Weil brought that into wide use. And what that does is, as you breathe in, the sympathetic part, or the accelerator, is activated in your autonomic nervous system. So that's the in-breath that for 4 seconds will be activating the sympathetic, and then he lengthened it, I think 7 seconds for the out-breath. The out-breath, or the exhale, is the parasympathetic, or the break. So what that is doing, that is really good if you want to calm down or go to sleep, because it's emphasizing the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, the break. The reason that in the Reiki and in the other work that I do, we have the equal time, 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out, is that's when you want both sides to balance together. We want sympathetic and parasympathetic to be working the same. If you want to go to sleep, then yes, fine, do longer with the out breath. That's a really good question.
I'm going to continue with the question, because the instructions are 4, you take in with 4, you hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then you exhale for 8. It's called 4-7-8.
Okay, so, but once again, the 8 seconds is twice the 4 seconds. So the 8 seconds out is twice the 4 seconds in. I personally don't like the holding of the breath. I think it kind of disrupts the cycle. I like just in and out. It's a nice wave. It's like an in, you can imagine the up sweep of a wave and out the down sweep of a wave. And that will become more obvious with the next slide that I show. So personally, I don't like the hold because I find it kind of interferes with the flow of the breath. Any other comments? And yeah, and thanks for chiming in. This is great. Okay, so I'm going to go back to share screen and show you what I was talking about. So here I'm going to talk about heart rate variability, how the heart rate changes with time. So you might think that, oh, I'm just sitting here doing nothing. I'm just sitting, I'm not exercising or anything. So why should my heart rate change? It's just 70 beats per minute and it's just doing that. No, the heart rate is changing all the time because if you're right now, hopefully you're paying attention. I can't see anybody asleep. So you're paying attention. So your brain is working. Your brain is working really hard right now, and your brain needs oxygen and nutrients. So your heart rate is changing because sometimes your brain is working harder than other times. So your heart rate is constantly changing, and the more it changes, the healthier you are. The reason is, the more your heart rate changes, it means that it's adapting to your body's needs and supplying the exact right amount of blood at the exact time for the exact thing that you're doing. So a healthy heart is going to change even if you're just sitting there. And you can see this top panel here. This is someone doing the usual breathing, like when I asked how fast you were breathing at the beginning. So your heart rate was going up and down. You can see that. So the y-axis is heart rate. You can see it's kind of averaging around about maybe 65 beats per minute. And the horizontal axis is time. So this is over 3 minutes. This is measured over 3 minutes. And you can see the heart rate is changing. So heart rate is how many times your heart is beating per second. Or per minute, sorry, per minute. So you can see sometimes it's beating like close to 80 here, and sometimes it's down to like 55, which is healthy. But you can see it's kind of going up and down in a random way. Down at the bottom is what happens when you do the gastro breathing that we just did. Very different pattern here. Your heart rate is still going up and down, but there's a special pattern to it. And this pattern means that your heart rate is going up when you breathe in and down when you breathe out. So you can see that's why these waves are forming. It's all synchronized. As you're breathing in slowly, your heart rate is going up from maybe here, like 55 to 65. And as you're breathing out, it's going back down again. That's because the accelerator is on as you breathe in and the brake is on as you breathe out. That's what gives us that perfect balance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic that is essential for good health. So a simple thing like this gastro breathing is completely changing your heart rhythm. Not the average heart rate. We're not talking about average heart rate. We're talking about how it changes. And at this point, I'm going to try and do something, a demo. It might not work, but I will give it a try. So I'm going to see if I can do a live demo of me doing that breathing and seeing how my heart rate changes or my heart rate variability changes. So I'm going to stop share and choose another one. Oops. Okay, can you see something different now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have put on a little sensor on my ear that is recording my pulse. I'm going to start this and you'll see my heart rate variability in a minute. So not perfect, but you can see I'm getting that wave coming in here. So that's just what I wanted to show you, that just the breathing is going to make your heart rate go up and down in time with the breathing in this wave. Okay, I'm going back to the PowerPoint now. So when your heart shows that wave, that rhythm, it means that your autonomic nervous system is in balance, which is really important for people with Parkinson's. That's what you want to get. You want to get that system in balance. So just that breathing, whether or not you learn Reiki, learning Reiki is going to add to it. It's going to amplify it. But even if you just do that simple breath, your autonomic nervous system is going to get to a much more balanced state than it usually is. And so as you breathe in, the sympathetic nerves are stimulated, the heart rate goes up. As you breathe out, the parasympathetic nerves are stimulated and the heart rate goes down. Very simple. And I call that relaxed alertness, that state, because it means that you're relaxed, but you're not relaxed like you are after like half a bottle of wine or something, or when you've, I don't know, when you're kind of lying in the bath. This is being relaxed and alert at the same time. So you're with it, but you're relaxed too. And this is a really good state for basically normal function and optimizing how you do things throughout the day. Relaxed alertness. And this is known as coherence. So basically, as you inhale, your heart rate increases. And remember, at the same time, you have more oxygen in your blood because you've just taken that big inhale. So the heart has pumped that extra, the heart rate's going up. It's pumping the blood into the lungs, into the blood vessels in the lungs faster. So there's more blood in the lung blood vessels to pick up that oxygen and take it to the rest of the body. And in fact, I did a study with a student years ago who was a competitive cyclist, and he had one of those stationary bicycles, and he had a device on it that told him how much power he was exerting. So we put a heart rate sensor on his ear, and it was around his chest, and he did his cycling, and he was able to see that he was producing like 300 watts of power as he was cycling. And then we measured his heart rate, and his heart rate was like, I think it was something like 150 beats per minute or something. And then we had him do this special breathing at the same time that he was cycling to create 300 watts of power. And when he adjusted his breathing, his heart rate only went up to 90. So his heart was doing way less work for the same effect. He was still producing the same power, but his heart was working less because he was synchronizing his breathing with the oxygen delivery, with the heart rate. So it's very effective physically, and also it's very effective mentally too. So I'm showing you here a diagram from the Institute of Heart Math, and you can see at the bottom there's a sad face that's called the heart rate variability. You can see it's kind of randomly, the heart rate's randomly going up and down. And then the happy face is when that person is in that special coherent state that you get from doing that breathing. And you can see my heart rate was going up and down with the waves. It wasn't as good as that because I'm kind of giving a talk at the same time, but I can usually get it like that. And what's important is that doesn't just stay in your heart. That signal of heart rate variability goes through the nervous system from your heart to your brain. And that signal is passing to what's called the thalamus, the part of the brain that coordinates what's going on in different areas of the brain. So each part of the brain knows what the other parts are doing. And that is really important for thinking clearly. And when you're sending that message on the left, that sad message, that out of sync message to the thalamus, it stops you from thinking clearly. That's the stress message. When you're sending the coherent, calm, peaceful message, relaxed, alert message to the thalamus, it helps it do its job so you can think more clearly because each part of the brain knows what the other part is doing. So it helps physically and it helps mentally, and it also helps emotionally. There's a part of the brain called the amygdala in the center of the brain, which basically stores your emotions. And so if you are sending that stress signal to the left, if your heart is sending the stress signal to the amygdala recognizes that as you feeling stressed, and it tells the rest of the brain that you are feeling stressed. On the other hand, if you're sending that relaxed alert, that coherent signal to the amygdala, it tells the rest of the brain, hey, he or she, you're feeling really calm and relaxed now at the same time, so that's a good state to be in, everything's good. And that tells the rest of the body that everything is fine. And so what you can do is trick the brain. You might be feeling stressed. You might be sending that stress signal from the heart to the brain. But if you change your breathing, it's going to change that signal that your heart sends to the brain. So you can trick your brain. Maybe you're not feeling great when you start, but by the time you get into that special coherent breathing mode, you'll feel much better. And that signal will go to the amygdala, and the amygdala will say to the rest of the body, hey, everything's good now. So you've tricked it. So I think it's pretty amazing that the simple thing like breathing can improve how much oxygen is being delivered to your organs. It can improve your ability to think, and it can improve your ability to let go of stress or stressful feelings. So why does Gasho breathing help people give and receive Reiki? Well, when you're giving Reiki, it's important that you allow the Reiki to flow right through you. Remember at the beginning, I said that energy is flowing through you. And if it stops, it means there's a blockage. And it's important to remove that blockage by receiving Reiki so that the energy can flow through and everything is working better. It's just like clearing a traffic jam, basically. So the energy flows through your body. And if you are in that coherent state, that relaxed alert state where your heart rate is going up and down with that nice wave, that means that you're in a clearer, it means like you're clearing all the channels so the Reiki can flow more easily. And that's one reason why you can think more clearly. You're clearing all those you're clearing all the nerve blockages, etc. So you can think more clearly, and information can be, you can take in more information. You don't have all these other things milling around in your mind, interrupting the information that's important. So you're not thinking about, oh, what shall I have for dinner tonight, at the same time that you're trying to focus on something important, if you see what I mean. So you're in a clear, neutral, non-judgmental channel. And that's the best state to give Reiki, and also the best state to receive Reiki. So if you're receiving Reiki, I always instruct my clients to try and breathe more deeply and slowly than normal. Then that opens up their channels and they can receive the Reiki energy better. So that's why that type of breathing was taught all those years ago when Dr. Usui was teaching his students Reiki, so that they could receive and transmit the Reiki more effectively, clearing out these channels. And in fact, you may not know this, but NASA and also the Air Force, they train their pilots using a very similar breathing technique so that they can remain clear and able to focus during emergencies. This is clearing out all the rubbish, clearing out those channels so that they can receive information more effectively and act on it more effectively. And if you remember that incredible pilot who landed the plane in the Hudson River, there is no way he could have done that without being in a perfect autonomic balance. He had to have had this training to be able to be alert, to know what to do, but relaxed enough not to freak out and to know what order to do everything in and to make the right decisions. So his medulla in the brain, the thalamus in the brain was working effectively, so he could, each part of the brain knew what everything else was doing so that he could make the best decision for all those people. So this is really useful in all kinds of ways. I'm just going to show you, Becky mentioned horses. I'm very interested in horses. I'm a horse owner and a rider, and I do therapy with horses as well. Actually, I shouldn't call it therapy. I'm not qualified as an equine therapist. I call it equine assisted learning. And you'll see that horses are very sensitive to what people are putting out. Remember I said when we were doing that breathing exercise, imagine the light is radiating out of your body in all directions. You were actually, although you weren't emitting light in all directions, you were emitting that signal from your heart in all directions through the heart's magnetic field, electromagnetic field. So I can't go into that right now, but your heart is electric. And every time your heart beats, it creates an electric current, which will create a field. And that field stretches many feet away from your body. So when your heart rate is going up and down with that nice wave, your field is pulsing with that same wave, that same frequency. And we've seen that horses are very sensitive and can pick up on that. And I'm just going to illustrate that with this video here. And I want you to watch the horse's ears. There's a student to the right, you can't see her, there she is, and she has a little device to show when she's in that coherent state. So she's doing the breathing that you were doing. So now watch the horse's ears. It's like antennae, they're picking up something. So you can see, before the student got coherent, that horse was not noticing her, not taking any notice of her at all. Then, when she became coherent, you could see his ears moving around, he picked up that signal and went straight to her, because she was telling him through that signal that she was not in fight or flight, she was not dangerous, she was perfectly balanced, and she was a good person to be around. So that has happened over and over again, countless times. So you can see how powerful a simple thing like that can be. And it works with people too. Somehow or other, people can pick up on that vibration too. So just to finish, yeah, so that's good. We still have some time for questions. Just to finish, I mentioned the Dalai Lama in 2005, and this is how he ended his presentation. So I remember it was in the down in the Tucson Convention Center in that huge big arena, and I was right at the back in the very last row, and I could see this tiny little dot, and he was dressed in yellow, and this tiny little yellow dot, and he had a translator, but I still remember this, how he ended it. And he said there are two personal qualities that are important in life: being calm, because when you're calm, bad events don't affect you so much. So that means not freaking out, being able to maintain that balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic. And then seeing things in perspective. When we're stressed out, we're just focusing on that one thing that isn't quite working for us. And when you are in that balanced state, you notice the other things. Remember that Reiki principle, just for today, I will be thankful for my many blessings. That's seeing things in perspective. So Reiki gives you both of those, keeps you calm, helps you see things in perspective. And even the breathing technique does the same, because it balances your autonomic nervous system, and you need that balance to see things in perspective. And so with practice, that Gassho breathing gives you both of these qualities. So I would like to end now and thank you for listening. I've been going on quite a while now. And if you want to contact me, there is my phone number and my email. And you can take a look at Mind Body Science website as well. And I think this is being archived, so you'll be able to get hold of it. And please come to the book fair, the Tucson Festival of Books. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and take any more questions.
I have an additional question without hogging the questionnaire. I'm curious with the Gassho breathing, that if you ever attain a place where that's the only kind of breathing that you do, I assume that that would be your ultimate goal.
That's an interesting question, because sometimes actually you don't want to be in balance. Sometimes you might think, oh, I'm really tired and I don't feel like I've got this big task to do and I have to do it and I've got a deadline and I'm really tired. Well, you need to get kind of more of the sympathetic, more of the accelerator going. So then that you wouldn't want to breathe deeply and slowly then. You'd want to kind of rev things up a bit. So breath is a tool, so you can use it for and as needed. So that's a good question. I would say on the whole that Gassho breathing is a good choice, but not necessarily all the time.
And I heard that Reiki can actually stop, or at least control to an extent, tremors, which I have. Have you read anything about that, or do you know anything about the relationship between that energy movement and tremor?
I can tell you right now, there is no peer-reviewed publication that shows that, but I have heard that from observations and anecdotes. So yes, it's possible that it can, but I would, as I said, there's no scientific data published right now. So it would definitely be, I think it would definitely be worth trying out some Reiki.
That's
Because
very
one thing I didn't mention about Reiki that is really important is Reiki can do no harm. So the worst thing that can happen is nothing.
That's very interesting about the tremor, because it is a resting tremor of a certain hertz frequency. And stress usually makes it worse, and anxiety. So it does suggest that, And they have suggested that it's a, there's sort of a imbalance in the frequency in the brain, right? In terms of some of these frequencies.
Right.
And so, yeah, it would be a really interesting thing to look at, just to see if it also sort of suggests when your brain is imbalanced that this tremor is somehow related to that imbalance. And so it's a good sign of, if you're getting better with Parkinson's, it might decrease the tremor. But
Well, I think that it actually might, I think I intuitively heard from you, if you were going for balance, more than likely, if you were a Parkinson's patient, you would have an excess of cortisol when you're stressed out. So it really might be something, the breath might be if it balances is two autonomic and the two parts of the autonomic system, then maybe it would reduce the cortisol, and that would reduce the situation where people, I know my hand shakes more often when I'm under stress.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one reason why Reiki is so good, because it reduces stress, and stress is a component of almost all diseases, chronic diseases. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions and observations. My name is Dave, although it says Shelley on the screen. And Becky, my wife, and I met you in Cologne a few years ago. I've been to the Power Gym a couple of times over the years. Anyway, 2 years ago, I had DBS. And then shortly after that, I had a small stroke. And I've had the hiccups on and off for 2 years. I've got them right now, as a matter of fact. They come every couple of days and last for anywhere from an hour to up to 6 days. I'm wondering if this Reiki breathing will be able to help my hiccups.
I'm sorry, I don't have any evidence. No one's asked me that question before about hiccups, so I can't help you with that. But as I said, it's definitely worth a try.
Yeah, I think so. The other questions I've got are, I live in Penticton in BC. How do I find a local Reiki instructor?
Okay, so it's important that you get, right now there's no regulation for Reiki practitioners. And so it's important that you get one who you can trust. So you could try going on the internet, typing in Reiki practitioner and your area. But one of the things I mention in my book is that it's important to ask them questions so that you can work out if they're going to be effective for you or not. So you can ask them, how long have they been practicing? How many clients or patients do they see per week? What kinds of results do they get? And maybe the testimonials from other people. What type of Reiki they do. There are many different types of Reiki. Another thing you could do is go to the International Center for Reiki Training. If you just type in International Center for Reiki Training in Google, it will get you to a website. There are like thousands of Reiki practitioners trained in the same way. I know exactly how they're trained. I know that they are all trustworthy and can basically provide the goods, and they have people all over the country. They might be able to help you too. International Center for Reiki Training.
Okay, thanks. I was going to ask you about a book, but you already mentioned your own book, so.
Yes.
I'll have to try
Yeah,
to get
read my book. Yeah, Reiki in Clinical Practice, a science-based guide. And it's science-based, but it's written in a way that lay people can read it too.
Okay. Also, this is being recorded. Any idea when it'll be replayed again?
I was told within a month, but I'm not sure.
Okay, thanks. That's everything I've got.
Thank you.
thanks, Dave. I had a question. Has there been a clinical trial, Anne, that has looked at Reiki practitioners who practice with or without the breath, and the receiver is like with or without, just to see if how magical the breath is to the Reiki?
No, there isn't, but I'll tell you a story. So I was doing a study on Reiki practitioners, and I was measuring blood flow in their hands, because people very often say they feel hot in their hands when they give Reiki, and they feel hot when they receive Reiki. And I wanted to see if there was an actual increase in blood flow in their hands. So I had an instrument which measured the blood flow in their hands. And I think I had like 24 Reiki Masters come in, and I scanned their hands before, during, and after they were giving Reiki to themselves. Because one thing I didn't mention was that when you give Reiki to other people, because the Reiki is flowing through you, you get it too. So it's like a 2-for-1. And you can give Reiki to yourself. So that's what they were doing. And I had a student also watching them. They didn't know this, but I had a student watching them to see, just looking at their breathing rate, to see how fast they were breathing. And I was shocked. I have to admit this. I was shocked to find that when I got these 24 Reiki practitioners, local ones, to sign up for my study, I would say that the minority of them actually changed their breathing to that gassho breathing when they were giving Reiki to themselves. Most of them didn't do it. So yeah, which is a shame. And when I teach Reiki, I always make a big point of bringing in that importance of the breath, because that's what was originally taught, and it was taught for a reason.
Interesting. So Dave, that might be almost like, right, one of the indicators of a good Reiki instructor.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can say, oh, how do you breathe in Reiki?
Yeah. I had one other study. Anyone else? I had one other question. So in Parkinson's, there is a problem coordinating breath with movement. So there's an asynchrony in, they're not moving, if they're not breathing efficiently. And so people often complain of, well, their movements are inefficient. So they struggle more to move. So that may be related to fatigue or some other, sense of effort. And I really wonder if, that asynchrony gets even worse when you're doing multitasking, when you add, more and more cognitive challenge. So anyway, it's interesting if you added that breath training to, like, before we do skill training, like before we do therapy or exercise, and then integrate it somehow into movement.
Actually, I call it breathing meditation. I was doing this with the students when I was teaching at the university. So with this, I asked them to coordinate their breathing with their walking pace. So I say, choose a walking pace, maybe, but walk pretty slowly, and breathe in for 4 paces and out for 4 paces. So it's very simple, but that way you're coordinating the movement with the breathing.
Mm-hmm. Almost like meditative walking, but yeah, like really paying attention to that. That's really cool. So we'll have to try that some.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions you have? It's been really fun. Has anyone here, I'm just curious, ever had Reiki? Sharon, okay, great. Well, if there's not any more questions, I think we'll just give a hands up and a clap to Ann for taking her time to share with us her expertise and experience. And I'm really happy that someone's going to get those Reikis all in place, get those controlled trials. So.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, it was fun, and it was really nice to have all the questions, really good questions. Thanks.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Great. Thanks everyone for coming. Wonderful. We will see you next time.
Thank you for the easy to understand explanations. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.